Hello, and welcome to Behind the Scenes of a Seven-Figure Coaching Business with me, Rob Birkhead.
And me, Ben Hughes. Over the past decade, we built Trinity Transformation to over 500 one-to-one online clients and 7 figures in annual revenue, and it's been a real rollercoaster journey. We've put together this podcast to reveal the inner workings of a 7-figure online fitness business, as it's something we wish we had access to along the way, and it would have really helped us to get here a lot faster. And so hopefully it'll help you too.
So in today's episode, we're going to reveal the key steps to go from 100K to 300K a year and from 700K to $1 million a year. So sit back and relax, and welcome to today's podcast. So what we're going to do today is talk about what the business looks like at each of these different levels, because I think a lot of the time, at least for us, I've definitely found it difficult to understand what the team needs to look like, what we need to be doing, what we need to be focusing on to get to that next level of growth at every single stage of our journey. And if you've listened to the first episode, you'll know that we kind of went rapidly from almost nothing for a few years to kind of 300K a year and then back to zero. So we're going to kind of document the second stage of growth, which was a lot more sustainable. I think the second time we really knew much more about what we were doing. So we went from about 100K a year to 300 to 400 to 700 to $1 million a year between 2019 and 2023. So let's rewind, Ben. Let's go back to 2019. I don't know if you remember exactly what you were doing that year, but from what I can tell, we kind of had to get rid of the whole team, and it was just us that year. So just me and you trying to figure things out, doing sales calls, doing all the coaching as well, and not charging a hell of a lot. So what do you remember about that time?
I think it's probably just the fact that it was a lot of work. The way we decided to do things was a lot of work, but I think that was mainly just, I think at that stage we were probably making a lot of mistakes with everything that we were possibly doing. So hopefully for somebody listening to the podcast, if you can avoid falling into all of the traps and all the mistakes that we've made, then you can probably avoid being at this first stage where you have to work loads and loads of hours and not really see much reward or success from all of that hard work as well.
Yeah, I remember doing sales calls, I think I've talked about it before, all day. And then if there were any gaps, then we'd do a bit of coaching, but we didn't do a very good job of any of it because we were trying to do everything. So I remember, I didn't really know who my clients were. Like, they check in with us, so maybe they did. But if they didn't check in, we didn't chase them at all, did we? I think we had a lot of clients who paid, and then we never, I don't think I ever spoke to them again after the sales call. And they would just sign up, disappear, not really put it into action. And then we'd phone some more people and sign some more people up. And that's not really very good because you don't build up any sort of back end retention, do you? You don't have like people staying after 12 weeks. And we were only selling 12 weeks at the time. So we were constantly having to sell new people in. So it was pretty exhausting. I think the one positive at that time was we started building out the program a bit more. So I remember we recorded a whole year of workouts for clients to follow, because our clients like to follow along to workouts, and not many people are prepared to do this. So rather than just having, individual exercises to watch, I did take that time to do that. Not necessarily the thing I would do first now, though. I'd probably save that till had a bit more team in place, and then you can build that stuff out. As far as I can remember, I think maybe we put the price up a little bit, but we were definitely struggling to sell like £50, £49, I think it was, or £97 a month. Those were like our basic membership options when we were doing around 100K a year. So very, very cheap now by modern standards. And I don't know what your mindset was, Ben. I think our mindset at the time was that was quite expensive. I don't know what you remember.
Yeah, I think that was the mindset. I think what we found is that at every stage, you're always thinking that what you're charging is expensive all the time, regardless of whether it's not actually very expensive or whether it is actually a lot higher than that. But I think the model that if you were to give this business model a name, it'd be like the leaky bucket model, where you've got a bucket with loads of holes in the bottom. You're having to fill it up constantly with new clients. You're not delivering a very good quality of service. You're not selling them into longer term things. And therefore, you've got people leaving constantly, and you're just thinking, well, just focusing on filling that bucket with more and more and more and more people. And also, because you've got quite a cheap offering, every time you fill that bucket, you're not actually filling that bucket very much. You're just, putting a few drips of water into it at a time, like a little shot glass full, filling a massive bucket rather than actually pouring it in from a big hose pipe or something like that. But I think that being at this stage can be sort of very, very stressful. And then I would say moving to the next stage, or just the further you move up in terms of these levels we're going to go through, I think the more enjoyable the process of running a business becomes. I think at every stage of a business, you're going to have a series of problems that you're having to deal with on a day-to-day basis. I think a business is basically just loads of problems to solve. But as you get more advanced with it, and as you get better at it, the problems that you're solving become more interesting and more fun problems to be solving.
And I think you've got to solve the problems to create that next level of growth. So let's say 100k to 300k a year, and I'll say why I chose those numbers in a minute. Partly because that's what our journey looked like. But I think you've got to do the job of you now, which is, let's say, like you said, to fill the leaky bucket, doing the sales and doing the coaching, even if it's not a great job. Trying to keep up with that. And you've got to do the job of the next level, which was like, okay, building out this longer term program for people to follow, maybe then starting to like put out job adverts and hiring and interviewing. You're kind of doing the next stage of growth as well. If you only do what's necessary to keep you, just keep pouring stuff in the bucket, you'll never get to the next stage. A lot of people, I think, get stuck because they're not doing anything to build that next stage. So if we go through the next stage now, you'll see what that looks like and what you kind of need to work towards building if you want to get to 300k a year. And we had a mentor, it's very interesting, called Nick James from Expert Empires, who taught this concept. I think he learned it from someone else. But businesses tend to get stuck at the ones and threes. So like 100k a year, 300k a year, $1 million a year, 3 million a year, 10 million a year, and so on. And we definitely found this to be the case. We kind of breezed through the 700k a year. That was just a step on the stage to growing to $1 million a year where we're now. And I'd say we're fairly stable at this $1 million. We're maybe on track for 1.1, 1.2 this year, but we're not rapidly growing at this point, but we're kind of happy because we're very profitable at this point and figuring a few other things out and enjoying ourselves a little bit more. But we definitely got stuck at that 300k a year mark a couple of times. And it's because you don't really know what to do to get to that next stage. So 2020 and 2021, we did about 300, just over, and then just over 400, but very similar, in terms of profit. And the only key difference I can remember, I'm not sure what you can remember, Ben, this was obviously COVID lockdown time, was we took on a salesperson. So we hired Yaz. We did that interview in Birmingham. Do you remember that day?
Yeah, it was an interview. I think we had 20 people or something had said they wanted to apply for this position. And on the interview day, we had about 3 people. And it was kind of like, it was like almost like doing a reality show, like an in-person thing. We had like different rounds of it. And at each round, we were eliminating certain people until we finally got to the team member we wanted to hire.
Yeah, and we only had 3 to choose from, so it wasn't great. I think this is when your business has less reputation, and also because we hired in person, which we don't bother doing now. Less and less people want to bother showing up to in-person stuff. That was just before the pandemic, actually, when we hired. It was like December 2019. But we're quite lucky we had one, half-decent candidate in there that we were able to hire. I wouldn't hire that way. We've talked about hiring on other episodes. But the key thing is we took them on, and then we also increased our price. So one of the biggest things we just did was we stopped charging such a low price of $49.97 a month. And we started charging, I believe it was 97 or 266 a month. So we had like a lower offering and a higher offering. We'd always start by pitching the higher offering. The higher offering was with phone support. I think it was only one phone call a month, which we then increased to every week, just to give a better service. But at that point, because we were busy, we thought, we don't have time to do that. That was probably backwards thinking, because then again, we didn't retain any clients. We were constantly having to get new clients. It's very expensive and time consuming to get new clients. But we had these 2 levels, and then 97 a month was email support only. We had these 2 offerings. We had this one salesperson that we trained to follow our sales script that we've also gone through in a previous episode. But I still remember being pretty busy, because then we had this person who learned the sales system, and they started then filling up our coaching calendars or our coaching slots, didn't they? I think we got up to well over 100 clients each. I'm not sure what you remember from that period when we were in that first sort of COVID year. What do you remember?
I just remember when you've got that many clients, the job the how well you can coach those people really starts to drop off at a certain point, especially when you're also the business owner and you've also got all of the other responsibilities like, the marketing, the social media, accounting, all of that other stuff as well on your plate. And then you've got all of these people to coach. And the problem with that is the people you're coaching then almost become sort of an inconvenience at that point. It's like, oh, I've got all these check-ins to reply to. And if that's how you're starting to feel about your clients, then they're not really going to get the sort of level of coaching and service that they really expect or deserve. So I think still at this point, when we were doing the coaching, I'm not 100% sure. You'll be more clear on this, Rob, but I imagine we were still having a slightly higher kind of churn of clients.
Oh yeah,
especially compared to
way
now.
higher. Yeah. So we've got the numbers, and it was still very few people were getting through our first 12 weeks. Like it was an embarrassingly low percentage of people. I can't remember them offhand, but let's say it's sub 20% of people, whereas now we're up to like more than 50%, which still sounds quite low, but for a fitness program, that's not bad in our experience. And it's a great point. I remember that's exactly what you're saying about it feeling like an inconvenience. I've still got to do like my entire day of replying to check-ins, as well as getting the marketing done, as well as like having the sales team meeting, as well as working on the business to do the important project work that will actually get us to the next level. It's really tough. I think that's one thing no one really talks about. They want to say like online business, you're just kicking back on the beach. Your clients are just there. It's not really like that. I think because we had each other, we had two team members. I think the other thing to remember is at this point, we were coaching 200 and something clients between us. If I was on my own, I would have definitely just hired another coach at this point to start taking the coaching, because the sooner you can get a good coach, which I think when you're doing it at the beginning, you think, oh, no one could coach like me, but that's really nonsense. We've got 6 brilliant coaches now who are all got much more time and energy for it than we do. The sooner you can get someone else doing that, the sooner you can start getting out the way and then start to, like, a great analogy is be like the person playing the chess game, moving the chess pieces, rather than just being the chess piece on the board, moving around, and then also trying to, like, you can't really do a good job of playing the game if you're down there on the board. You need to be above it, managing the business if you really want to grow a proper business. The other thing I probably would have done is charge even more. So if it was just me and I had limited capacity, I would have probably charged a bit more than that, rather than 100 or 266 a month for that really premium one. A little bit more, maybe not comfortable charging 500 a month or more like we do for our top phone clients now, but at least go to over 300 a month, and then the email one maybe 150, 200 a month, because that then means you can build a much better quality service, which then gets you better reviews, it gets you better referrals, it then brings in more clients for free, and it means the whole thing grows quicker. Whereas I think you were saying this before we started recording, weren't you, Ben? Like, undercharging gives you very little of any of that, and you're constantly like on the back foot, having to work so much more to create quite a mediocre business if you don't charge enough.
Yeah, and I think but the difference between kind of all of those levels, so from going to the 100K to 300K to 700K to $1 million, all of the things that we're talking about, so adding a salesperson, adding the coaches, increasing the pricing, I think one thing that will hold a lot of people back is that all of those things are quite sort of difficult decisions. Like there's a lot of uncertainty around it, because you're like, oh, suddenly I'm taking on this person, I'm going to have to take a proportion of the business's income and now put them into this person, and I don't know whether it's going to work out. You've got to be almost comfortable with trying things, taking that bit of calculated risk. And I think we could have gone a lot quicker between all of these stages, but I think it's you take a new risk, you bring on that new person, and then you sort of wait for that to kind of settle for a while before taking the next risk. And I think one thing that really helped between those two levels of like having the confidence to make a decision like that, hiring a person or charging more, which is like a bit of a big shift in the business, was, as you've already sort of mentioned, having these different mentors at each stage of the process who kind of, they had the sort of vision beyond, because you've got kind of the vision of where you are now, if that's like the 100K or 300K level, but then someone else can have a vision of like, if they've already taken that next step, they can quite easily see like, oh, it's obvious, you just need to do this and this and this, and then you'll get to the next stage. So a lot of the time, having someone there who just, we'd have like a business meeting like a coaching call or whatever with someone else, and they'd say, oh yeah, just hire this person, just do this, double your pricing, let's do it tomorrow. And we'd be like, oh God, are you sure? That sounds quite drastic. But then all of the time, every time you've made those shifts, most of the time, it then pays off.
Yeah, almost every single time it paid off, I think, didn't it? There's maybe one or two adjustments. The worst case, if you put your price slightly too high, give it enough time to check. But I think we had one time and we increased that upper program level slightly more than we were happy with. And we were starting to get a bit of feedback from clients saying, I'm not sure this is worth it. We brought it back down from like 666 a month, the number of the devil, to 500 a month. And then we get loads of positive feedback now. So it's just getting that correct. And there are some mentors out there, I think, will tell people to increase the price beyond what that person can actually offer in terms of value and expertise. And it's about hitting the sweet spot, but it's usually a lot higher than people think. So let's jump to the next level then. So 700K a year, which I think we did 699 in 2022. So we'll call it 700. The big difference now between 300 and 700 is it's all team now. It's all about hiring team and then training team properly, and giving them, and we've talked a bit about team in previous episodes, especially last episode about how we hired the coaches. So I won't go too in depth on that, but it was all team. So we went from me and Ben still doing a lot of the coaching and one coach at 400K a year. So in 2021, we had Dave, who's now our head coach, to then 4 or 5 coaches on the team. We were completely out of coaching. So we let our clients drop down, and then any that were left, we transferred over to the most experienced coach at the end of 2021, I think, for you, and the end of 2022 for me. And then we hired another salesperson as well. And a lot of people think a salesperson is the cost, but actually adding that salesperson in is an investment we know a salesperson will make us, let's say, 25K a month. So if you add another salesperson in, provided we can fill their diary as much as possible, we'll probably add another 25K a month. And it is pretty much how it worked out with hiring Lewis. What other things do you think we changed to go from 300K to 700K?
So we also increased pricing again, which is kind of a theme at every level, actually. So we increased the pricing to 166 or 333 a month, or what's this one?
We
or
went
like
from
500
that to the next level. Yeah.
500 for 12 weeks or 1,000 to 12 weeks. But I think we also, as we've gone up the levels as well, we've almost had more offerings. So whereas at the start we might have had one program, which is like, oh, there's just this program, it's 12 weeks, that's that. As we've gone up, we then have had like, options for 3-month program, 6-month program, 12-month program, monthly options. There's a higher support level and a lower support level. So I think as you add more to the business, you can also get a bit more complicated with what you're offering as well, and offer something that people can for example, join for the first 12 weeks and then upgrade and join for 12 months. So that we started to sort of move into doing a little bit more of that. We've obviously increased the sales team, and also at this point we just kind of increased our ad spend. But I guess the things that we'd outsourced were the coaching and the sales, which are, I think they're probably two of the most time consuming things, because coaching, to do a really good job, you need to spend a lot of time on it. And again, for sales, to do a really good job, you need to spend a lot of time on it. So we outsourced those sort of time consuming parts of the business to focus more on the sort of growth and development of the business, which meant we were still doing kind of the marketing side of things, so creating content. At this point, spending a lot on ads. So one thing we've done now is to focus more on sort of the organic content side of things, which I think is a better way of going. But at this stage, we kind of just thought we were in kind of a growth phase. So it was just a cycle really of increase the ad spend, so we get more calls booked in, have the sales guys take more calls, get more clients on board until we filled up one of our coaches, and then hire another coach. And it was just at this stage that you get to a stage where if you outsource the coaching and the sales, to grow from there is kind of just a rinse and repeat thing. It's just like fill up your one coach, hire another coach, fill that coach up, hire another coach, up to a certain point.
Yeah, you're still refining things as you do that, but it's much smaller refinements at this stage, isn't it? It's kind of going, oh, this bit isn't working, or now we need a team meeting to manage the coaches, or we need some new KPIs, so like metrics to track what the coaches are doing. But that's all in the background. But on the kind of strategy level, it is just rinse and repeat, hire and replace. And then to get to 1 million a year, again, we just did another price increase. So we went from 332, from 166 and 333 a month, like you were saying, then Ben, to 332 and 500 a month. So we basically made the lower one the higher price from before, and then we put the higher price up a bit more. And we were selling more upfront memberships because I think we had more reputation. We could then sell people for 6 or 12 months straight off the bat. And we're still doing that now. So that made a big difference because you're getting the cash up front. And what we found was if people have a wobble, let's say 4 months in, they would just cancel a monthly membership. But if they sign up for a year, they would take that in their stride and we could help coach them through it and go, look, it's just a wobble. People immediately panic, or they have a bill come in or they have, a redundancy. If they're paying monthly, they usually then cancel that monthly thing because they see fitness as a luxury. So we kind of learned from that. We thought, okay, we're going to get as many people sign up for a long period of time as possible because it puts them in this long-term mindset. We also then built a longer program. So we built a 2-year program between 700K and 1 million a year. So rather than just having 1 year and then they'd kind of repeat these workouts again, we built a second year called the advanced program. And that gave them another thing to focus on. And it meant people stayed a lot longer and we got lower churn. So we got less people leaving. And then we built up a load of reviews as well. So a load of Trustpilot reviews. We're nearly at 300 Trustpilot reviews now. They're a bit lower then. They're probably about 150. But we just started building kind of our brand reputation, which is something you can't really afford to do at the beginning. But as you get bigger, obviously you want to try and do it the whole time. But as you get bigger, you kind of start doing a better job. And we started doing a lot more organic marketing. So basically, Ben and I had bought all our time back now by getting out of coaching, getting out of sales. We've already built the coaching and sales systems. We have a head coach who onboards all the new coaches. So I don't even have to train them now. So Dave will train them. And salespeople aren't coming on too often. So typically they're kind of trained and then they're ready to go for a couple of years at least. So then we have the time to focus on organic marketing. And that's where we've now been able to actually dial down our ad spend, which is a decision we've taken to then make a lot more profits. We're banking lots of money every single month now. And organic marketing is a much more solid strategy to build the business long term. If you can do it from the start, that's great. It's quite hard to grow rapidly without any paid ads. But the reason it's better is that paid ads always get more expensive. Every single year, they just get more and more and more expensive. And it's like super inflation. So your margins get smaller and smaller and smaller until what we realize is we hit 1 million a year, but with actually pretty much no more profit than 700K a year. We'd spent all the rest of the money on the ads. But now we're at 1 million a year. Just to give you the full story, where there's loads of profit, more profit, we're making that 300K a year is now, that's all, we're making that more than that in profit this year. With a team, with us having to do much less work, with us being able to take much more time off. Like Ben, you're off to Brazil next week for 2 weeks, right? And you're not going to be working at all for those 2 weeks.
Yeah, because now we've got we've got 2 people on board for organic marketing as well. So we've got people creating all of our social media content, editing podcasts, doing blog posts. So just everything is. I think with each stage of the business, you're either growing it. So like when we were spending lots on ads and just getting loads of clients, that was just like growing as much as possible, kind of at the expense of not making that much profit. And also as you're growing and you're taking on all these team members, it starts to at some point strain the sort of systems you have in place for kind of managing people and dealing with that number of clients and all of those types of things. And then we've kind of moved into a phase now of sort of solidifying that level that we're at. So we're not looking to kind of grow and make way more in terms of revenue, but we're looking to increase the profitability at that same level of revenue, whilst at the same time bringing on more team members and freeing up even more time, but also extracting more profit at the same time. And then I imagine you get to one of those phases. At some point, I guess we'll probably get to the point where we've streamlined things again to a really, really good position. And then you get to almost another growth phase. So it's like, right, we've now stabilized this at a really good level. Do we now want to are we going to then push and sort of, double or increase the output of the business in terms of the revenue amount again in the future?
Yeah, and we'll obviously share those lessons when we've got to the next level beyond this. But it's a good place to be at now. It's I would say it's the nicest place we've been in business. I think people often think the bigger it gets, the worse it gets. I would say the opposite. I just get to do more of the things I like this. So I know you've got another meeting to get into, but we're going to wrap it up for today. So I hope you found that useful. Hope you found that interesting. If you did find it useful or helpful, please share this with another coach or business owner who could benefit. We're doing this for free. We've got lots more stories and failures and all of that to share with you in upcoming episodes. But for now, thanks again for tuning in. We'll catch you next week for another episode. We will see you then.